See now, so what happens is on eBay now, you see they keep doing this, and I know to most people this will seem something and nothing, but when everyone in the world is reading these words and letters, it has a matrix of a psychological effect over everyone. That's why I called them out on the accept cookies thing. You know, they got everyone accept cookies, accept cookies, accept cookies. It is magical, basically. I mean, it's spellcasting. I mean, you call it spelling when you write. But I've just got these. Let me clear these up now on eBay. Just like these are the BentCup.biz stickers that I've been getting. And then that's just like, when I send the stickers out, I kind of wanted them to be nicely presented. So that's on a tissue paper, but I thought it would be cool if they wrapped in some funky tissue paper or something. Just like to say that it's decent quality. Hold on a minute. Right. You're all caught up. So that is it. You're all caught up. So how I read that is, I mean, it's presented as innocent, you know, you're all caught up. But if you are not someone who just takes things on face value, you're all caught up. It's like you are literally all caught up in their web. You're all caught up in their network. You're all caught up you're all tangled up, basically. You're all caught up in like purchasing their goods, buying their things. You know, your eyes are fixated to the screen a lot of the day rather than to the people in the world around you. Literally, like, you know, the World Wide Web. You're all caught up in the World Wide Web. The metaverse. You're all caught up in the accept their cookies. You're all caught up in their cookie web, in their cookie network, you know, in their drive-through network. And the other, something else that, what's the other one as well? You know, like I said, you know, I'm not a robot, I'm not a robot, I'm not a robot, I'm not a robot, I'm not a robot. But, you know, every time you're doing that, you're agreeing to their terms, agreeing to their conditions, agreeing to their terms, agreeing to their conditions, which are literally not even the law of the country. They're like an additional, you're entering like a meta law effectively, but every single business has got these meta laws, and the meta laws are, you know, it's like the tide is coming in. You know, it's like one minute there's a normal law that we've all voted on and elected people to make, but then the businesses are, the tide's coming in with this other law, which isn't even one we elected for or voted for, and then it's additional restrictions, but on everything, because they've bought up and own everything. You know, by the time you've finished and you've consented to all these laws, when they own literally everything, you don't even have the laws of the country, because they've overridden all of the laws of the country with policy, and then they won't actually, you can't have business with any of them unless you consent to their laws. Their laws. But this is the thing. Rob F. Kennedy works in litigation. He is a lawyer, and he works in the civil courts. You know, he does civil cases against all these big corporate companies. So I don't really know anything about the civil courts. All I know about is the criminal courts, really, because that's all what I've been involved in with, you know, political rights. Because it's meant to protect us against being criminal. We're not criminals when we're acting through a lawful, due legal process. It gives you powers. I would even claim that the powers are equal to that of the council, because it makes you into an authority and you become an authority. Now, the arguments in that are what is lawful and not. Well, if you look in France, they've got a lot of political rights in France. I would suggest in England, what would be reasonable to argue is that you effectively, if you get a large body of petitioners who are bringing a case, what can and can't you do? What is criminal and not criminal? My belief from the very start of all this, when I very first started investigating and looking into the rights, I've always had a gut feeling and intuited it to mean that you pretty much can do anything that the council can do and the local authority, if you kind of do it properly and you know, you're meant to, like, without being sloppy and without being amateurish and without being, you know, unprofessional, you know, if you go through these procedures, like, you know, you draft up the petition clearly, like a legal document with everything written down, which you can't really do on the internet on the HM government website because they restrict your petitions to 50 characters or 50 words, whatever. Not 50 characters, the titles to about 50 characters, but whenever you could attach all these terms and conditions and law to the petition, but they'll likely reject it. The petitions committee will likely reject it and not let you put that link and say, oh, it contains defamatory or false information. So they're not actually letting you. You could probably get a lawyer to argue with the petitions committee over it, but then if they don't agree with it, then you have to take them to court. Now, can you take the petitions committee to court if it's in Parliament, or have they got immunity? This is the thing. Supposedly, you might have to go to the Supreme Court, but that's costing you money. But where do you get your money from to have to argue for the rights that you've got in the first place to do something? They're not, and this is where, like in America, I'm like, well, at least the Constitution, the fundamental rights, are meant to be interpreted by the people, or you can't even use them in the first place. Pretty much like the civil procedure rules. It says that the civil procedure rules are meant to be written in a way that everyone can understand them, or you can't even self-represent. So I that's why I called them out on this We the People thing, which I think people in America take We the People for granted and they don't think about it too much. So I was saying to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s team, I was saying, look, it's We the People. That's the Constitution of America. Who is attributed to writing it is We the People. Well, they sign it at the bottom, but he's attributed it to, he's kind of like, he's framed it as, this is the people who are writing it. Now, if he's framed it as and presented it as and declared it as the people who have written it with him, and then he signs it into writing, but he's declared that it's, you know, if you write a statement that me, John, Philip, and Alex did this, and this is what we said, then they are responsible for what they said and liable for that. You're writing them into it, into the statement, you know, that they said it, and they can attest that they did or didn't, you know. So We the People is like the main Constitution of America is like the people in America are legally entitled to interpret the Constitution of America, at least the document that says We the People wrote it. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the codified law in America because I haven't read a lot of it, but I don't know if that applies to all of the law or just to the constitutional part. But I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not sure, I'm absolutely certain that at least for the Constitution, you know, each of the documents that say We the People on it, they're allowed to interpret it. They've got a legal right of interpretation, although, you know, they're not judges unless they've been sworn in a jury, then they can make judgments as well as be interpret the law. But so, you know, I don't like coming back to this, you know, digital thing here. So, you know, civil, Robert F. Kennedy's been involved in civil matters in court. Well, I don't like the fact that they scrap juries in civil cases, at least in England. We don't really have juries in civil cases, but apparently they used to do. I don't think the juries would put up with all of this insane amounts of money being argued and squabbled over in courts. But really, what we've been witnessing is these big, dark Blackrock Vanguard companies buying up all the companies and then taking control of them, while the rest of the minions who do own companies are really being fought against. They've really been squabbling in court against each other. You know, this is my logo, that's your logo, or you owe me this money, you owe me that money, while secretly these big dark entities have been buying them all up and taking them over. And now you can't even enter. I mean, I want to make a case against the National Lottery for that jackpot scratch card that I found, because they took it off me, and I think that they stole it off me, and that's a criminal case, that theft. But also the cards, I think the card was worth an art collector value of up to £200,000 because it was 40,000 to 1 odds in finding it at £5. So that's £200,000, but they only offer you £500 for handing it in, but I didn't have to hand it in. And I was under the impression that they were going to let me keep it, like the previous managing director chief executive let me keep it before. But when the new chief executive came in, he didn't let me keep it. So, you know, I disputed him over it. But if I go to court to claim that card's worth £200,000, I've got to pay £10,000 court costs if I lose or win. Unless I claim that it's a £500 scratch card and I've got the right to have it, and then if it later comes out in court that it's worth £200,000, I might be able, if I win, I might have to pay the £10,000 court cost. But if I don't win and they don't agree that it's worth £200,000, then I might only have to pay the £500 court costs if I claim it's only worth £500, or the dispute's over £500 worth of scratch card that I'm allowed to have. I still might be able to win the case that I can keep it and I can have it, on the basis that I didn't have to hand it in the first place, and I was misled to hand it in. I really could have kept it. I had the legal right to keep it and not claim it, and I told them on the telephone I'm not claiming it, but then they didn't send me it back. They put it through and processed it when I said, no, just send me it back. I'm not claiming the prize anymore. You know, now in the policy, they say that they own the cards at all times, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't be in possession of it or keep possession of it. And a lot of the cards are destroyed. The shops destroy them. Even the post office who audit them destroy them. If they're destroying them, then that's, you know, Camelot saying that they own the cards. So what right have the post offices or off-license shops, corner shops, supermarkets have just to tear them up and throw them in the bin after you claim them when Camelot own it? So I'm quite confident that I can win that case, but now they're making it look like it cost me £10,000 just to make a claim that the card's worth £200,000. Now, I'm not a company or a business, I'm just a person. No one can afford that. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying that, you know, the average American doesn't have £1,000 spare, you know. So who can afford, you know, £10,000 to go to court when you don't know whether you're going to win or not? You know, so the civil courts, what I think is they've priced everyone out of the civil courts, really, so only big companies can access the civil courts. All these massive big companies that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is like fighting against. And even the juries aren't deciding. It's all these big judges like Emma Arbuthnot and her husband, all those circles that are actually involved in the surveillance of us and the security of us, and like the fact that you know, we're getting demonetized, like Russell Brand and people like that. And then we found out that they've not been, all Group 9 bodies that are small charities, political, educational, religious, they've not been allowed to be monetized, so they can't actually make money to finance their non-profit campaigns and grow into a bigger non-profit campaign, and then they have to register and pay taxes. You know, they're just saying that we're not eligible, you know. When I think that's discrimination, because they've got political channels on there, they've got educational, they've got religious, and they've got charities on there. They're not saying we're not having them on the platform, but they're saying you can come on the platform. They really couldn't get away with, you know, banning them completely, but they've said, oh, we're not going to monetize you. Why? Well, I said this in the last video, one of the last videos, the last 2 days. I said that because they'd have to make up special tax rules and make you classify your channel like they do on the normal advertisement section of Google. They do classify them on there. But they're not offering that classification. Basically, they didn't want to go out of their way to do it, to help you out, but do it properly. But they've invested all this money into copyright, and they've even transformed the entire platform to scan everything for copyright, to make sure that Universal Studios and Warner Brothers get their money out of you all. In fact, the entire platform's set up to monetize for those big corporate entities, but they haven't gone out of their way to monetize and set up for us to have our small political, religious, educational bodies where we can monetize for profits that could be used for non-profits, sorry. Well, it's money, monetization, money to be used to further promote the campaign, not for personal gain, for the campaign's gain. And then once you start going over this, you know, whatever it is, £5,000 a year monetization, or up to £25,000-30,000 that they're saying on IRS, depending, then maybe alarm bell goes off, and now you've you exceeded this monetization. You've exceeded this monetization level. Now either you're getting in over $5,000 a year, or you are getting in over $35,000 a year. Now we can't monetize you anymore unless you register with the government. That's doing it properly. But what they're doing is they're just saying you're not eligible for monetization. So that's discrimination between different charities, surely. And it's preventing political movements, charities, from becoming successful, and really this is what Rebecca Kennedy's talking about, this big two-party, this big two-party domination of the entire thing is preventing independent political and charitable bodies. And you see, they get all the... You see, the Archbishop of Canterbury was on TV the other day. Now, I'm not knocking him, but he's swanning around in front of all these boxes, right? Oh, look, we're doing well. We're doing all this charity for Ukraine and for Africa and everything. The champions, the church, the champions of charity. Well, yes, Archbishop, aren't you doing well? Aren't the church doing well? Isn't that religion doing well? Look at all your boxes, you're making, the church is, receiving, millions or billions from its congregation. Aren't you doing well? Well done, Archbishop. All this charity you're doing for Ukraine, when everyone else could be raising money in their own little small charitable organisations, and they could be, aren't you doing well as well, for Ukraine? But then again, why doesn't Pope Francis, and I don't see, the Archbishop of Canterbury and Pope Francis, walking out into the battlefield. Let's get Prince Harry. Why don't we get Prince Harry, right? Fly in. Why don't the Archbishop of Canterbury, the primate of all England and the House of Lords, and get why doesn't he get Harry to pick him up in one of his helicopters with touchy-feely controls? Fly over to the Vatican City. Pick up, we'll check the weight capacity of the helicopter and see if it can take on Pope Francis on board, and then lift him up. They could always fasten him in a cargo box if he can't fit in the helicopter. They'll fly them over to Ukraine. Forget Boris Johnson with his peace talks. When do they drop him on the battlefield? This is what the Druids were supposed to do. Stand in front of armies. The Druids could stand between armies and, go to meet with their leaders and turn them back, This is what Boris Johnson's not doing. Boris Johnson, we can't be making peace with the Russians and Ukraine. No, Zelensky, carry on fighting. This is it. Well, where's all this biblical, this biblical, fire and brimstone, as the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Prince Harry in his armoured helicopter Airwolf, dropping, Archbishop of Canterbury holds his sceptre up from the battlefield, Pope Francis, praise the Lord, and the Bruce Blivers, you see the light, James Brown, you see the light, Putin, do you see the light? This is it. And turning the armies away. No, because these are boxes for them after they've been bombed and, his smithereens, and Keir Starmer will rebuild. It's Keir. Hello, is that Keir? There's a Balfour beat me there as well. And, Ruse. There's a Ruse going. Is it a Ruse? Ruse? We need some construction people in here to rebuild Ukraine. It's been bombed. Oh, what a shame. It's okay. We're going charity here, but who's making money out of the charity supplies? It just happens to be Keir, Balfour beat me, and the rest of the Blackrock Vanguard. Oh, there's money to be made out of rebuilding Ukraine. This is it. Where Archbishop of Canterbury and Pope Francis were all dropped in the front line of the battlefield. Turn back, go back. Turn the armies back. This is it. Because I don't think that they want to stop the war. They could have done this on day one, but instead, now when we get all these adverts popping up, Ukrainians burned to a crisp, and all these demolished buildings, send money in, I'm not knocking that, but How did it happen? With the power of the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Pope Francis, you know. I won't mind, but half of Russia are meant to be Christians as well. Surely Pope Francis could, you know, and, you know, surely Pope Francis and Archbishop of Canterbury can at least get the Christians in Russia to sit down and go back home. You know, I command you and the sovereign of the Catholic Church. No Catholic shall go to war. I command you to sit back down again. You know, why aren't you writing to Putin? Oh, Putin, by the way, all the Catholics are exempt from army subscription in Russia under the, you know, seal of Pope Francis, you know, and the rest of it. But no, this is why it's all a charade. What's happening is Blackrock Vanguard don't like the fact that we're all stamping our feet and protesting. And they said, right, you little bastards, you little fucking citizen scumbags, we're going to fuck you. This is what's going to fucking happen to you in Ukraine if you don't behave. Larry Fink, behaviours, we've got to control behaviours. Larry Fink, control behaviours. You little fuckers. I'm Larry Fink, you little fuckers, control behaviours. We're going to fuck you like Ukraine, you little fuckers. You know, I am not a robot, tick the box. You know, accept cookies. You're all caught up in my web. Larry Fink, you're all caught up in my web. I'm not a robot. Control behaviors. I'm not a robot. Control behaviors. You're all caught up in my web. Larry Fink. You know, this is it. This is why, you know, metaverse. This is why, you know, Mark Zuckerberg needs to wake up. You know, slap. You know, well, you know, like the Knight of the Realm, Nicholas Clegg, Knight of the King, you know, in Facebook, global president, you know. I don't see, you know, the global president, Nick Clegg, pushing a button, you know, like, oh, what's happening? Putin's weaponry is powered off, you know, hey, what's going on? You know, someone's hacked into the fucking Russian military and Ukrainian. Hey, it's just me. It's Nick Clegg. You wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you? You know, these are not any old glasses. You know, these are Ray-Bans. I'm the global president, Nick Clegg. I just banned war in Ukraine and Russia with my Ray-Bans. You know, this is it. None of this bullshit. Because Biden's secretly going, yes, war. You know, so can we make love? I've got investments in those construction companies. This is it. We're all caught up in their web. This is the problem. We're all caught up in their web, and Zuckerberg's in on it. You know, Zuckerberg is, you know, like a role model of us all being caught up in the web, us all, you know, being turned into robots under new policy directives that aren't even laws that we voted for. Accept cookies, accept Prime drinks, accept Mr. Beast bars. You know, this is it. But because they're sold out by Neil Mohan's, you know, all the kids now want to be YouTube stars, you know, and, you know, smash Ferraris up and or whatever extravagant, ridiculous things they want to do. Fill swimming pools with chocolate or whatever, you know. Gross excess. Whereas, actually, the rest of the normal people are suffering, you know, people, working class people, you know, suffering. But, you know, forget them. We're all robots now, you know.